Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Lit Stories, the place where you learn English in an easy and fun way. I'm John, and in today's episode, I want to share something truly useful for your English speaking, listening, and vocabulary building: the story of Hamlet. Hamlet is a classical story that has been read by learners for hundreds of years. It was written by William Shakespeare, a writer who introduced 40,000 new words into the English language. His work helped shape English into the global language we use today. This story is extremely useful, not just for improving your listening, speaking, and vocabulary, but also for learning a powerful life lesson: the destruction of laziness and procrastination. After listening to this story, you will feel motivated to stop wasting time, avoid being lazy, and do everything on time, which will help you become a successful person in life. So, today, you'll learn two things at the same time: motivation to take action in your life, practical English skills you can use every day. Let me ask you something. Why is listening so important? A famous linguist, Noam Chomsky, says that humans are born with a special ability called the language acquisition device, or LAD. This part of the brain learns language through listening. When we listen, the LAD recognizes the sounds, patterns, rhythm, and tone of the language and absorbs grammar automatically, without memorizing boring rules. Through listening, you learn how words are formed, how they connect, and how sentences are naturally produced. Always remember, the more you listen, the more you speak. Listening is the raw material for speaking, just like you cannot build a house without bricks, cement, and water. The same is true for language. Without listening, you cannot speak fluently and confidently. Today's story will also introduce new phrases and vocabulary in context, so you can use them in daily life. Here is our plan for learning. First, we will read the story, slowly and clearly, in simple language so that you understand everything. After reading the story, we will explain the difficult vocabulary and use each word in practical sentences so you won't forget them and you can use them in your everyday language. What you should do: listen and repeat after me so that you learn the language easily. And before we start, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. Let's begin.
Chapter 1: The Death of King Hamlet. Long ago, in the northern kingdom of Denmark, where winter winds howled across deep forests and the sea roared against the cliffs, there lived a powerful king named Hamlet the Elder. He was a man of courage and honor, respected by his people and feared by his enemies. Stories were told about his bravery, how he fought giants from the mountains, how he defended the kingdom from invading armies, and how he rode into battle wearing silver armor that shone like lightning. To the people of Denmark, he was more than a ruler. He was their protector, their strength, their pride. And in the heart of the royal castle of Elsinore lived his only son, the young Prince Hamlet, a thoughtful, bright-eyed boy who admired his father more than any hero in any tale. Wherever the king went, little Hamlet followed. He watched his father solve problems with wisdom, fight enemies with courage, and lead his people with kindness. To the young prince, his father seemed almost immortal. But no matter how strong a king is, no king can fight death forever. As the years passed, the mighty king grew older. His hair, once as dark as the northern nights, became silver, but his eyes still shone with the same fire of his younger days, and so life continued peacefully until one cold morning everything changed. In the quiet garden behind the castle, where the king liked to walk and rest, he lay down to take a short sleep. The breeze was gentle. The birds were singing, but when a servant came to wake him, the king did not move. His breath was still. His heart had stopped. King Hamlet the Elder was gone. The news spread through the kingdom like a storm wind. People cried openly in the streets. Soldiers bowed their heads in silence. Even the sea, some said, sounded louder that day, as if nature itself was mourning his death. And in the castle, the young Prince Hamlet stood frozen in disbelief. His world, everything he loved, everything he trusted, had cracked open. He had lost not just a king, but a father, a guide, a friend. And as he walked behind the coffin during the funeral, every step felt heavier than the last. He remembered the king's laugh, his strong voice, the proud way he held his sword. Each memory cut deeper than the one before. The funeral was filled with dark clothes and bowed heads. The smell of burning candles hung thick in the air, and though the priest spoke calming words, nothing calmed Hamlet's heart. He felt hollow, like something essential inside him had been pulled out and replaced with a cold emptiness. But even before Hamlet could fully understand his grief, the world changed again. Because only 2 weeks after the mighty king was laid into the ground, the castle bells rang once more. Not for mourning, but for celebration. Queen Gertrude, Hamlet's mother, was marrying again. This time, she was marrying Claudius, the dead king's brother. Yes, the king's own brother. The halls were decorated with flowers, musicians played joyful songs, servants carried trays of wine and roasted meat, laughter filled the corridors that still smelled faintly of funeral incense. To everyone else, life moved forward. But Hamlet could not understand. How could his mother's tears dry so quickly? How could she smile so brightly so soon? How could she place her hand in Claudius's as if nothing had ever been lost? Hamlet watched the new king, his uncle, sit on the throne that had belonged to his father. He watched Claudius's confident smile, the way he raised his cup, the way he wrapped his arm around the queen. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong. Claudius's smile seemed too wide, his confidence seemed too smooth, and his words, gentle, warm, friendly, felt like silk hiding a blade. Hamlet kept quiet. He kept watching. He kept thinking. And the more he watched, the more uneasy he felt. It was not just grief anymore. It was something else, like a voice whispering in his heart that the truth was hiding behind these sudden celebrations. At night, Hamlet would walk alone through the cold corridors of the castle. The torches flickered behind him. His footsteps echoed on the stone floor. And the more he thought, the more his thoughts twisted into heavy questions. Why did his mother remarry so fast? Why Claudius? Why did the king die so suddenly? And why did the world feel as if it had turned upside down? One winter night, while the wind whistled outside like a lonely flute, Hamlet stood at his father's portrait. The painting showed the king in his shining armor, holding his sword, looking proud and unbreakable. Hamlet touched the painted cheek with trembling fingers. He whispered, "I miss you. I wish you could tell me what happened." His eyes burned, but no tears came. The sadness had moved past crying. It had settled deeper, somewhere he could not reach. Then he heard footsteps behind him. It was Horatio, Hamlet's closest friend, the one person he trusted in the entire castle. Horatio's face was pale, nervous, unsure. "Hamlet," he said softly, "I need to tell you something strange, something that you will not believe at first." And with those words, Hamlet's world, already cracked, began to open into something far darker than grief, something he had never imagined, something that would change the course of his life, something that began with 3 trembling words: "We saw him." Story, Chapter 2, The Return of the Dead King. Horatio's words hung in the air like a breath that refused to leave. "We saw him." Hamlet's eyebrows lowered. "Saw who?" Horatio swallowed. "Your father." For a moment, Hamlet just stared. The world inside him felt as if it had paused, like snow caught in the air before falling. "My father is dead, Horatio." "I know," Horatio answered softly, "but we saw him, walking, wearing armor, on the castle walls." Hamlet's heart thudded loudly in his chest. He wanted to laugh, to reject the idea, to call it impossible. But Horatio was not a man who joked about such things. "When?" Hamlet whispered. "At midnight. He didn't speak. He just looked at us, like he was carrying a message he could not say." The room felt colder. Even the fire in the nearby torch seemed to dim. If the dead return, it is never without a reason. That night, Hamlet waited for the stroke of midnight with a heart beating like a drum inside his chest. The sky outside was black, the stars hidden, and the wind howled through the towers as if carrying voices from another world. Horatio and the guards led Hamlet up the stone stairs. Each step echoed, each breath felt heavy. And then the wind stopped. Everything became frighteningly quiet. A pale figure stepped out from the shadows, a tall man, glowing softly, wearing the gleaming armor of a king. Hamlet's breath caught. There he was, the father he loved, the father he buried. The ghost lifted a hand, slow and heavy, and motioned Hamlet to follow. Hamlet's friends tried to hold him back, but Hamlet pushed forward. A son cannot ignore the father who calls him. When they were finally alone, the ghost began to speak. Its voice sounded like echoes from a deep cave, filled with sadness and fury. "Hamlet, my father did not die by chance." Hamlet's eyes Hamlet's eyes widened. "I was murdered," the ghost said. "I was sleeping in the garden when your uncle came. He poured poison into my ear. My body died in silence, while the world believed I left peacefully." The ghost's voice broke. "He stole my crown. He stole my queen. Hamlet, my son, revenge my death." Hamlet felt the world tilt beneath him. The man sitting on the throne, smiling, joking, pretending to be a caring uncle, was a murderer, a traitor. Hamlet's hands shook. His heart screamed. "I will," Hamlet whispered. "I will, Father. I swear it." The ghost's form flickered, dimmed, and faded into the cold night, leaving Hamlet alone with a mission that felt heavier than the crown of a king. But he knew he could not act openly. If Claudius had killed once, he could kill again. Hamlet spoke quietly to himself. "I must hide my heart behind madness." That night, the Prince of Denmark changed forever. Chapter 3. The Mask of Madness. The next days in Elsinore Castle were filled with whispers. Hamlet wandered through the halls like a man caught between two worlds. Sometimes he spoke to himself. Sometimes he laughed suddenly. Sometimes he stared at people with eyes so sharp they felt like blades. Everyone thought the prince was losing his mind. This was exactly what he wanted. He needed Claudius to believe he was harmless, confused, broken. A madman is not a threat. A madman cannot plot revenge. But acting mad came at a price. The first person to suffer was Ophelia, the gentle, kind girl who once held Hamlet's heart. She approached him with trembling hands, hoping to comfort him, but Hamlet pushed her away. "I never loved you," he told her, though the words stabbed his own heart as he said them. Ophelia's eyes filled with tears. She did not know he was acting. She did not know his cruelty was a shield to protect her. She only felt pain. Meanwhile, Claudius and his advisor, Polonius, Ophelia's father, began to observe Hamlet carefully. They hid behind tapestries. They sent spies. They whispered behind doors. What if the boy suspects something? Claudius wondered. Fear is loud. Guilt is louder. Queen Gertrude tried to talk to Hamlet, but he kept speaking in riddles. She could not reach him. The boy she loved now felt like a stranger. Then, one day a group of traveling actors arrived at the castle. And Hamlet had an idea. He asked them to perform a play. A story in which a king is murdered by his own brother with poison poured into his ear. A mirror of the truth. "Let us watch Claudius," Hamlet whispered. "Let his face reveal his guilt." And oh, it did. When the murder scene played out on the stage, Claudius suddenly rose, pale and shaking. "Stop the play!" he shouted. The room froze. The king stumbled away, panicked, terrified, exposed. Hamlet watched him go with burning eyes. Now he knew for certain. The ghost had spoken the truth. His father had been murdered, and Claudius feared justice. Chapter 4. A Mother's Tears and a Deadly Mistake. That night, Gertrude sent for Hamlet. She wanted answers. She wanted to understand why her son was acting like a man possessed. "Talk to me. Tell me what troubles your heart." But before Hamlet entered her room, Polonius hid behind a curtain, determined to eavesdrop. He wanted to report everything back to the king. The conversation quickly turned intense. Hamlet spoke with a fire that frightened his mother. His voice rose, his steps grew faster. Gertrude cried out in fear. From behind the curtain, Polonius panicked and shouted, "Help! He will hurt the queen!" Hamlet, thinking it was Claudius hiding there, drew his sword and stabbed through the curtain. A cry of pain. A fall. Blood on the floor. Hamlet lifted the curtain. Polonius lay dead. A terrible silence filled the room. Gertrude covered her mouth in horror. Hamlet froze. But he felt no guilt. His mind was burning with another fire. In the quiet that followed, the ghost appeared again. It did not speak with anger, but with sorrow. "Do not harm your mother. Do not forget your purpose." Gertrude could not see the ghost, but she saw Hamlet speaking into empty air. She realized then her son was breaking, or perhaps the world around them was breaking. Polonius's death shattered the castle like a hammer breaking glass. Ophelia, robbed of her father and the man she loved, lost her grip on reality. She wandered through the halls singing sad, broken songs. Her gentle mind drifted like a leaf on a wild river. And one tragic day, she fell into the river and drowned. Some said it was an accident. Some said her heart simply couldn't carry the weight anymore. Either way, sadness swallowed her like deep water. And her brother Laertes, filled with rage, returned home demanding revenge. Chapter 5. Blood will call for blood. Laertes stormed into the castle. "Where is the man who killed my father? Where is the man who drove my sister to madness?" He wanted Hamlet's head. And Claudius, terrified that Hamlet knew the truth, saw an opportunity. He whispered poison into Laertes' ear, just as he had poured poison into the king's ear years before. "Let us arrange a fencing match," Claudius suggested. "Hamlet thinks it will be a friendly game. But you, Laertes, your sword will not be harmless. It will be sharp and dipped in poison." He agreed. Revenge made him blind. To make sure Hamlet would die, Claudius also prepared a cup of poisoned wine. "If he does not die by the sword," the king murmured, "the drink will finish what the blade could not." On the day of the match, people gathered to watch. They believed it would be a simple competition. Only Claudius and Laertes knew the truth. Hamlet entered the hall calmly. He apologized to Laertes for killing Polonius. He meant it. For once there was no madness in his voice, only regret. Laertes nodded, but held hatred in his heart. The match began. Hamlet was skilled, quick, sharp. He scored the first point. Claudius lifted the poisoned cup. "Hamlet, drink to your victory!" But Hamlet refused. So Queen Gertrude, sweet, trusting, innocent, took the cup instead. "My son's health," she said lovingly, and drank.
Claudius froze. He tried to stop her, but the poison had already entered her veins. The match continued. Sweat, steel, anger. Then Laertes struck Hamlet. Just a small cut, but the poison began its deadly work instantly. In the chaos that followed, Hamlet grabbed Laertes' sword and wounded him too. Both men dropped their weapons. Both felt death rising inside them. Laertes collapsed and gasped. The king plotted all of this. He poisoned the cup. He poisoned the sword. Hamlet, forgive me. Hamlet's vision blurred as he turned toward Claudius, the man who stole his father, his mother, his crown, his future. With the last of his strength, Hamlet stabbed Claudius with the poisoned sword and forced the cup to his lips. "Drink," Hamlet said. "This is justice." Claudius fell, choking on the poison he had created. Queen Gertrude collapsed. Laertes whispered a final apology, and Hamlet, wounded, dying, fell into the arms of his loyal friend Horatio. "Tell my story," Hamlet whispered. "Let the world know the truth." Horatio nodded through tears, and with a final breath, Hamlet closed his eyes. The prince who carried the weight of a kingdom was gone. Chapter 6. The Words That Remain. Silence fell over Denmark. A foreign prince named Fortinbras arrived soon after and ordered that Hamlet be honored with the funeral of a soldier, a hero, a man who fought not with armies, but with truth. Horatio stood beside the coffin and whispered, "Good night, sweet prince. May flights of angels sing you to your rest." And with that, Hamlet's story passed into legend. A story of loss, a story of betrayal, a story of love, madness, revenge, and the heavy human heart of a young prince who only wanted justice. Oh, what a powerful story is written by Shakespeare. Now let's jump into the meaning and explanation of important phrases. Oh, what a powerful story is written by Shakespeare. Now let's jump into the meaning and explanation of important phrases. Grief. Deep sadness after losing someone. Example. When Hamlet's father died, grief filled his heart like a heavy stone. Betrayal. When someone you trust hurts you or breaks your trust. Example. Hamlet felt betrayal when his mother married Claudius. Madness. A state where the mind feels broken or confused. Example. Ophelia's sadness pushed her into madness. Revenge. Hurting someone because they hurt you first. Example: Hamlet wanted revenge for his father's murder. Poison: a substance that can kill or harm. Example: Claudius used poison to kill the king. Echo: a repeating sound like a voice bouncing back. Example: the ghost's voice sounded like an echo from deep inside the night. Destiny: something that feels meant to happen. Example: Hamlet felt it was his destiny to uncover the truth. Whisper: to speak very softly. Example: Horatio whispered the truth about the ghost. Collapse: to fall because of weakness or illness. Example: the queen collapsed after drinking the poison. Fading: slowly disappearing. Example: the ghost faded into the cold air. Trembling: shaking slightly, usually from fear or emotion. Example: Hamlet approached the ghost with trembling steps. Silent: no sound at all. Example: the castle became silent after the tragedy. Justice: fairness, making wrong things right. Example: Hamlet believed killing Claudius was justice for his father. Heavy-hearted: feeling deep sadness. Example: Ophelia walked through the castle heavy-hearted. Confession: admitting the truth about something. Example: Laertes made a confession before he died.